Welcome to the Penny Stamps Distinguished Speaker Series. My name is Christina Hamilton, the series director. Yeah. Today is the very first in-person Penny Stamps event in over 2 years. We had planned that we would be back here in January, and we were foiled again and again by many different things. It has been a long and winding road, but I am so happy to find this day at last, and that you are all here together with me in this moment. You know, there is nothing that can replace this experience. We did change to online events without a beat, and we haven't missed a week, but nothing ever can compare to this ephemeral moment. So, yes. And today we are thrilled to be coming to you live from the 60th Ann Arbor Film Festival. Long may she reign, a juggernaut of the experimental. And we present you with a voice of rebellion, the queen of no wave, Lydia Lunch. Lydia is here today together with the inimitable Joseph Keckler. Joseph Keckler, of course, this is a homecoming of sorts for Joseph. And I want to give a special welcome. We have new students and old students and incoming students and students who have been here at U of M for 2 years, and this is the first time they've been in the theater. And so special welcome to you guys. And then for the festival goers who are here going, I thought I was at the Ann Arbor Film Festival, where am I now? We are the Penny Stamp series, and in the old world and the world going forward, we take place here at the Michigan Theater on Thursdays at 5:30, and we're always free. We have 3 more events coming up in person this season. We have flyers in the lobby. Take one and don't miss us. This week, there's a lot going on. Our guests that are here today are also part of other events happening at the film festival you do not want to miss. They have an event tomorrow at 1 o'clock at North Quad. And because of all of the festival going-ons that we have, we will not be able to have a regular Q&A today because there's so much robust programming. But you can meet with them tomorrow at 1 o'clock at North Quad, or see Lydia will also be performing here on stage on Friday before the 7 o'clock films, Joseph on Saturday before the 7 o'clock films, and not to miss the documentary, The War Is Never Over, about Lydia, which will be late night, 11 p.m. Tomorrow night at the State Theater. Also, all you art students, I entreaty you must get involved with this film festival. It was born at the school in 1963 under the auspices of Professor George Manupelli, and its legacy is here for you. So do partake. It is your opportunity to free your mind from the engines of propaganda and the dictations of popular media. Yeah. Don't miss it. Thanks, I think that was Dan Gunning. So, to the hour at hand. We have 2 great performers in the house today, so we will start with 2 performances. I'm going to introduce Joseph to you for a performance, and then Phoebe Glockner is going to do the honors of introducing Lydia Lunch. So, Joseph Keckler is a singer, writer, composer, and creator who zeroes in on moments from daily life and transforms them into absurd and affecting underworld voyages. His performances have been featured by NPR's Tiny Desk series, Lincoln Center, and Centre Pompidou in Paris, among others. The New York Times hails him as a major talent whose range shatters the conventional boundaries with a trickster's dark humor. You will see evidence of this momentarily. He is here to perform for you. He is the one and only thrice guest of the Penny Stamp Speaker Series. So please join me in welcoming to the stage, Joseph Keckler.
I need you to organize the German section. I also need you not to be sleeping at work.
I'm sorry. I was just taking a little early lunch break. I had a little piece of food there on the desk. I swallowed it just the moment you appeared.
Es wurde schwierig zu arbeiten. Ich wollte nur noch Vinylkleider im Internet kaufen. Ich dachte,
ich muss dieses Vinylkleider haben.
Plötzlich war ich auf St. Mark's Place. Keine Ahnung, wie ich dahin kam. Ich habe mich verschuldet ein Hemd mit einem Sandkreuz und Bondage-Hose zu kaufen. Ich habe einen Rückfall. Ich war ein Ich hörte alte Bands. Ich war nostalgisch vor die Jugend eines anderen. Plötzlich war ich St. Mark's. Wie kam ich nur dahin? Nun hatte ich kein Geld, aber ich hatte das
Hi. I find myself uncharacteristically nervous at the moment because I'm about to introduce a woman that I've long admired. I've followed the career of Lydia Lunch since 1977, years before your parents were born. I followed her career invisibly, like a succubus, or no, more like a headlouse. I saw her play at the Mabuhay Gardens in San Francisco, where I grew up. I was a punk rocker. I went to the I-Beam. I went to the Def Club, and she played a lot, even though she was from New York. She played alongside bands like the Dead Kennedys, I don't know, Psychotic Pineapple, all of these bands. Her band, Teenage Jesus and the Jerks, that's what was going on at the time. But she's done so many more things since then, but I'm not really an authority on everything she does. Although I did have a conversation with her backstage in which she was telling me about letters she had from Eileen Warnos. Do you know who she is? Yeah. But they sounded just beautiful. And she responds to the letters, I assume via video. I can't fucking wait to see it. In San Francisco, I knew a lot of people that Lydia knew, but I didn't know Lydia. I did a lot of illustration work for Research Publications, which was like a punk publisher. I even did the cover of Angry Women, published by Research, which included long interviews by Lydia and by our own Holly Hughes. So, yeah. Anyway, hang on. Christina told me I wouldn't be able to look at my notes because I couldn't see them, but I actually can see them. Okay, just before arriving here, I was listening to some live concert tapes of Teenage Jesus and the Jerks. And immediately I was brought back to 17 years old, pissed off, full of energy. And I just had this impulse to go knock the shit out of someone. And that is what that music did for me. It took this adolescent anger, adolescent energy, and it just translated it into this full body kind of rage that was, you danced all night, slam dancing, you ran away from home, you cut your hair off. But it was a beautiful feeling to hear this again. And Lydia, let's see, what can I say about her? She is a whirling dervish. She's a Tasmanian devil. She is the female incarnation of Isidore Ducasse. So, with pleasure, I introduce to you the King of New York and the Queen of No Wave, Lydia Lunch.
They outlawed everything that spelled pleasure. Didn't want you to even think about it. Wanted you to forget everything about how good it felt. It was all so obvious, wrong, too dangerous. And what exactly was gonna happen? It was easy, so easy for them to infiltrate. You bought it, you ate it. It wasn't met with much resistance. Revolt didn't come till much, much later, after the damage had already been done. After
Good evening. I'm Lydia Lunch. You think you know me. Let me tell you a little bit about myself. I hit Manhattan as a teen terrorist in 1976, inspired by the manic ravings of Lester Bangs and Cream magazine, the Velvet Underground, sarcastic wit, the glamour of the New York Dolls' first album, and the poetic scat of Piss Factory, Patti Smith's best recording. I snuck out of my bedroom window, jumped on a Greyhound bus, and crash landed in a bigger ghetto than the one I had just escaped from. But with $200, and that was a lot of money back in those days, trust me on that, I stole most of it, in my back pocket and a notebook full of misanthropic rantings, I was sporting a baby face which belied a hustler's instinct and a killer urge to destroy everything that had inspired me. I really didn't give a flying fuck if the Bowery smelled like dog shit. Now, I wasn't really expecting the toilets at CBGB's to be the bookend to Deschamps urinals, but then again, maybe 1977 had more in common with 1917 than anyone would have possibly imagined. New York City during the late 1970s and early 1980s was a beautifully ravaged, slag, impoverished, and neglected after suffering from decades of abuse and battery. She stunk of sex, drugs, and aerosol paint. Her breath hung heavy as sweet tubercular, sticky and viscous. She leaked from every pore like a sexy corpse, unable to give up the ghost. A succubus that fed on new meat and fresh blood, who in turn suckled on her like greedy parasites, alchemizing her putrefaction like a breeding ground of intoxicating fauna. New York City, then. A contaminated nursery overrun with toxic belladonna, deadly nightshade whose blossoms mocked death by embracing a life which defied death, thereby mocking every fucking thing else. Not long before the family-friendly gentrification and capital gain criminality whitewashed New York City of all its kaleidoscopic perversion in order to make it safe, although it no longer is, I'm happy to report the crime is back up. That is what I digress. Making it safe for anyone who could afford to pay ridiculous amounts of money for shoebox-sized the Lower East Side back in the day played crash pad, shooting gallery, and bordello to dozens of art school dropouts, avant noise musicians, radical poets, no-budget filmmakers, and fly-on-the-wall photographers. We all lived within spitting distance of each other in cheap tenements. Basically, I can see into almost everybody's window back then. It was a drug-fueled, no-holes-barred, blood-soaked pornucopia of art terrorists documenting their personal descent into the bowels of an inferno of a city which seemed like, and trust me, it's true that the inmates had taken over the fucking asylum. My God, it was beautiful. Wow. Creativity acts as a rogue virus, spontaneously combusting, splattering the brain matter of its host carrier across a finite terrain for a fleeting amount of time, forever staining the landscape. And if we want to break it down, it's pretty simple, because like hippie radicals flocked to Haight-Ashbury during the summer of love, seeking revolution before the acid wore off. Heavyweight Southern African-American blacks migrated north looking for paid work and ended up singing the blues in Chicago in the 1940s. The devil hollered when Jerry Lee Lewis caught his great balls of fire in Memphis in the 1950s. The scandalous theatrics and outrageous decadence of Germany's Weimar Republic in the 1920s fostered both an uprising in prostitution and performance art, really good shit, I can assure you, which made the golden age of Hollywood in the dirty 30s seem absolutely quaint by comparison. The boisterous orgy that had begun in Andy Warhol's factory in the swinging 1960s had become a bloated Technicolor corpse kicked to the curb by gutter punks and no-wave nihilists in the late 1970s whose idea of a good time was defined by how much trouble they could cause, how much noise they could make, how much art they could create before the police busted in to shut down the after party. Oh yeah. Now, like the anti-art invasion of Dada and the Surrealists, those pranksters who shadowed, everybody, who actually preceded everybody and everything, and they had a blast while pissing all over anybody's expectation of what art was supposed to be. No Wave was a collective bowel-cleansing caterwaul which spat forth a collective of extreme artists who defied category, despised convention, defied and defiled the audience, and refused to compromise, and as consequently, well, here I am now today. What can I say? Everything I have done is and shall be considered no wave. No wave. No, no wave. It's only a movement in retrospect. Post-Alan Vega's pre-punk tube piece appropriately named Suicide, and before pop-punk grunge prankster Sonic Youth, New York City was the devil's dirty litter box. No Wave was the bastard offspring, a taxi driver, Times Square, the son of Siam, the blackout of 1977, the dud of the Summer of Love, the hate fuck of Charles Manson, the hell of the Vietnam War, Kent State, the Kennedy assassination. It was a mad collective of death-defiant miscreants desperate to rebel against the apathetic complacency of a fucking zombie nation, this country in specific and mostly general, and to this day still, which was dumbed down. We are fucking dumbed down. Yeah, we're fucking pretty much dumbed down. Now, yes, we were, some of us still are, angry, ugly, snotty, loud. We use music and art as a battering ram, some kind of psychic self-defense against our own violent tendencies, extreme reaction against everything that the 1960s had promised it but failed to fucking deliver. And we were pretty pissed off by that. If you want to know what no-wave nihilism is, it's like, where did all that good shit go? Well, it did not happen post-Nixon, Ronald Reagan, 70s and 80s, let me assure you, that did not fucking happen. It was a collective mania. Obviously, I'm still manic. It was a collective mania that shot through the night skies in a decade riddled with the aftermath of all the failures and disappointments that had come before it. But, believe it or not, beneath this scowl of derision, the antagonism, the acrimony, the beautifully hideous harangues, and nearly unbearable shrill, that grotesque soundtrack, which defined and still defies and defines my life, we were all laughing like fucking lunatics. Yeah, at the brink of the apocalypse, in a madhouse the size of all New York City, thrilled to be rubbing up against the freaks and outcasts who somehow, for some reason, had all decided to run to Land's End, and all at once scream their bloody fucking heads off. Now that's what no wave is.
I'm Lunch. They do a song called I Need Lunch. I'm Lydia Lunch.
I'm still alive doing what I want to fucking do with who I want to do it with. To me, I'm not living in the past because I'm living in the present.
Lydia is the queen of the underground, and yet she's a misfit within it, because I think that she is so brutally honest that some people can't maybe handle what she does.
I think Lydia's reactionary, but really artfully reactionary.
Because there's a rumor going around, we never believe in, and that the fucking war has just begun, baby. That the war is never over. That the war is never...
Lydia always talks about how the war is never over. She's been saying this for 30 years.
I'm Lydia Lunch, and if you think you know me now, I think you need to know a little bit more about me. Stubborn resistance, independence, survival. My themes have always been universal themes about the imbalance of power, about injustice, about trauma, and how do you survive and thrive beyond that?
Lydia is a fucking doctor. Her kind of medicine is just a punch in the fucking face.
When you're done playing big man down in the pig pen and good and ready to crawl out of that nasty hole you've been rooting around in, don't think Rochester Red is gonna save your nasty ass again, motherfucker. How bad you want it when you can't have it, and now you're crying, dying in your living hell. I played your mama, I played your papa, and now you get to play your motherfucking self. You know you want it, you really need it. You're busy frying, dying in your living hell. I'm not your mama, I ain't your papa. Now baby gets to play his motherfucking self. Thank you very much. Thank you, Christina. Thank you,
Yes,
Joseph.
thank you, Christina.
Joseph put together this whole thing, so I have to thank him. Of course, he had a lot to work with, maybe too much.
No such thing.
Hi, Joseph.
Hi, Lydia. We talk often, not in the presence of...
We'd really have to charge a lot of money for some of our private conversations. They usually go on for 24 hours straight. Nobody can stand that except us. Yes, sir.
But now, we're here at the Ann Arbor Film Festival at the University of Michigan in the Michigan Theater, and we have the easy breezy task of covering 45 years in 45 minutes.
I love it.
Of music, of writing, of your multimedia. And we're not going to be totally categorical. We're not going to be totally chronological.
You're not a cat a whore?
I don't know if I am. How can I tell?
I have no idea.
But we're going to do a brief and thorough survey.
I wish you'd do a thorough body search, but maybe that'll come later. I'm hoping. I know he has to get paid extra for that. Just saying. Christina, write the check. Go ahead, Joseph.
A few...
He's so elegant, and I'm such a fucking vulgarian. It's such a lovely... Keckler and Heckler in the house. Thank you. You were saying?
I'm trying to... I wear this jacket, and I'm trying to be...
I think you should take your pants off.
formal here.
You know we're gonna have our own. You know we're gonna have our own TV show after this. Keckler and Heckler together for always. Go ahead. Thank you. What were you saying, Joseph? Sorry, so interruptive.
A few of your catchphrases, a few of your themes, a few of your tenets.
I never met a man I couldn't kill. The war is never over.
The war is never over. Pleasure is the ultimate rebellion. You
Welcome
deal
to my church.
with the pornography of reality, and you are a practitioner of stand-up tragedy. I think possibly stand-up comedy right now, but...
I'm sitting down, Joseph. I'm not that short. Jesus. Just because he's tall. He thinks everybody else is short.
So, after the... As you...
Apocalypse?
After the apocalypse of No Wave...
I am an apocalyptician.
You are. Be your own apocalypse in the world. After the precise tantrum that was No Wave...
It's still going on, honey. I'm right here, right now. Thank you very much. It's a long tantrum.
You made a series of other...
Mistakes. Art atrocities.
Swerving each time. Introducing other threads.
Threats?
Doing threats. Always doing something unexpected. Refusing to become stylistically codified or commodified. Let's listen to...
I'm holding my tongue right now. Notice.
Let's listen to a little bit of your big band work, Queen of Siam.
Why not?
cardboard forced fists in my brain. I blacken the walls as I suffer my youth. I've got the cancer of birth and I ask what's the use?
So this came not long after Teenage Jesus and the Jerks, and you were influenced by film noir, by cartoons, and you actually collaborated with a man who had penned music for the Flintstones.
Can we not overlook the fact I was also influenced by Seconals and whiskey at the time? Thank you very much. They don't make Seconals anymore. It's a tragedy. I always say, fuck your opioids. Yes?
So, can you talk about that development?
Yeah, well, okay, look, I am a musical schizophrenic. Let's start there. And I was, even at the very beginning of Teenage Jesus, simultaneously I had a band called Beirut Slump. I think it is the only band which I will seriously consider as horrorcore. But simultaneously, so already in my first evocations of music, I had this need to, I mean, the difference between me and most of my so-called peers is they make the same album 20 times over, et cetera. I make it and go on. It's just another part of, I feel like I myself am kind of a radio dial that never stops spinning, and my music has often reflected that. Schizophrenia. Isn't that not why you love me, Joseph? Dr. Keckler.
And as a teen, age Jesus, as you put it, you escaped the war inside your house in Rochester, New York, went to New York City, and you turned trauma into art, perhaps also art into trauma.
On a good day.
Do you want to talk about your early life and
how early? 3, 7, 9, 10, 12, 14. My first performance, 14, at a acid party in Buffalo. Yes, I will. Thank you.
And any experiences that formed or informed you, and
Joseph,
also
you're getting absolutely a little too frickin' personal here. Go ahead.
Also, or alternatively.
I thought you were going to say also and orally. Why don't you talk about the experiences that have affected you orally? We'll get to that later. Thank you very much. From a very early age, literature was the thing that inspired me most. The writings of Hubert Selby, Henry Miller, Marquis de Sade, only the Grove Press translation, Foucault, Genet, Sartre, etc., E.M. Ciron. So literature was the first thing, and I don't even know how I got these books because there was no books in my family home. My parents did not read. I dropped out of high school in the 10th grade because I knew what I had to go and do, and that was to go and do what I do. And as a matter of fact, how I got kicked out of 10th grade was because I refused to read John Steinbeck after having read the frickin' Marquis de motherfucking Sade. Thank you very much. I'm like, I will write, but I will not read that crap. Thank you, I won't. Anyway, my English teacher said, well, why don't you leave? But I would say that from the age of 9, when I knew that consciousness had struck me at 6, that the war in my family, I consider any nuclear family, the microcosm of the bigger war outside. And when I realized that the war was not only in my house, that it was much bigger, that it was not only my house, but it was a continuum historical of patriarchal insanity. And I then took on first, my first spoken word event was called My Daddy Dearest, and it is a sick and perverted little piece I'm sure you could find on YouTube. But I took on my father, the father of our country, and God the Father as the unholy trilogy of abuse and predation. And I think what separates me from a lot of people that had childhood trauma is I saw the bigger picture when I was very young. And I was arrogant enough to feel that I had to fill a void in especially literature that I did not find another female voice filling. Hence, here I am.
And so
it's hard out here for a pimp. When you're trying to
you went to New York.
Get the money for the rent.
And you intended to do spoken word.
I did,
to be grounded
but it wasn't happening, honey.
It wasn't happening. So what was the scene like at that moment?
Okay, so
and how did you end up turning to music, just in that initial...
Thank you, Joseph. I will take it. I originally thought I would go and do spoken word, which at that time was after beat poetry. Patti Smith was rock and roll poetry. There was no slam poetry yet. When I heard the term beat poetry, I thought it was a physical thing. I said, I'm right there in it. Okay, fine, physical poetry. But it didn't really exist, and there was no even vehicle or venues for it. So I started a band that was half instrumental. Yeah, mental. But then as I kept going, I decided to, as I still do, Joseph will attest to this because we had a show just a few weeks ago, I started to just curate my own events with spoken word and short violent acts of performance art and just taking over clubs and doing residencies on Monday nights and just like forcing.
Musically violent.
Pardon me?
Musically
violent. Physically violent. No. Performance art, physically violent. Spoken word, psychically violent. Physical performance art, bloodletting violence, just as a mind cleanser. And I just kept curating, and that was the way to get spoken word on the table there. Because spoken word throughout, which I still feel is the most important media to me, of course, it's never popular and still isn't. Doesn't fucking matter. I still read to you, didn't I? I will keep doing it because I think it's the most urgent form of intimate communication. So the popularity or not of it has never been in question to me. I was going to do it if I was the only one fucking there hearing it. Well, maybe Joseph will come. Joseph's heard a lot of my best speeches, one-on-one. Yes, he has.
And wait, so music was the medium.
No, it wasn't. Music was the machine gun to the bullets that I was firing from my mouth. The words were always the most important. But the issue is, look, a lot of writers, they just write the same fucking book and the same story over and over again. And I have had the same themes over and over again. The imbalance of power, trauma, surviving, thriving beyond it, revenge fantasies, etc. And so in order to not just harangue the same, the music had to change, which was very natural to me because the theme is always going to remain the same. The imbalance of power, trauma, war, whoredom, and blah, 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 out for night, a motherfucker, how long?
No Wave, Queen of Siam, big band.
King of New York, yeah.
And then you moved into this sort of, as you term it, psychedelic goth phase.
I only say the word goth because you use it facetiously. Yes. Go ahead. Oops. That was like the gong horn. As a death-defiant, possible, if I didn't have art, female serial killer. The album 1313 was when I moved to Gangland. I did live in the middle of two ganglands in Los Angeles to record this album. And I had thought all along, but don't trust my memory, I can't. I had thought that this song, Lock Your Door, was a song about Richard Ramirez, but he didn't exist yet. So maybe I invented him. And Afraid of Your Company, another song on this album, is something I always say, it is what anybody should sing if they knew who I really and truly was.
And can you talk about...
Are you afraid of me? Of course he's not.
Can you talk about...
It's much bigger than I am. Yes?
Stylistically, what moved you into this territory and how you did it? I mean, I think you had a story about somebody financing this album.
Well, this album was financed by a heroin-addicted stockbroker who had a fetish for medieval art. So I don't know. I mean, the thing is, with every collaboration that I've done, usually this is the way I function. I have a concept. Concept is a sound. Then I decide who can best recreate that sound with me. So I never think, oh, who would I like to work with? Because even now, it's not like I've worked with everybody, but I couldn't sit here and say, oh, I would like to work with so-and-so, because it's always, as a conceptualist, the concept comes first, and then the people that can most facilitate that sound. And most of this group were in the band The Weirdos, and which I am not punk rock. You can ask that next. I am not punk rock, nor have I ever been punk rock. I am No Wave.
Why don't you just answer it?
I'm going to. I'm not done. So anyway, but the 1313, the band, The Weirdos, but the drummer, who's amazing, Cliff Martinez, went on to play with, I don't know why, the Red Hot Chili Peppers, Captain Beefheart, and do an incredible amount of soundtracks like Blow and all of this. And I'm still in contact with the two, that would be the guitar player and the drummer. Nobody can find the bass player, because maybe he didn't lock his door.
And you also, you've made visual art, you've made installations, you you collaborate, and you engage in what you describe as geomancy. So you go to different cities and make different kinds of work. So you were in New Orleans and made a kind of New Orleans-infused sound.
Okay,
you were Pittsburgh, London. In Barcelona, you went around photographing all these ghost towns that you then used as backdrops for your spoken word work. So in a way, all this work is site-specific and conceptual, having to do with individuals and places.
And this is a two-part kind of concept, because first of all, people always think that, oh, first of all, I was not born in New York, and I lived in New York less than I've lived in many other cities. So I was in New York 76 to 79. I went to the West Coast, 1313. I went then to London for 2 years and worked with Roland S. Howard, who I eventually brought to New Orleans to do swamp rock. But I lived in New York, New Orleans, Pittsburgh, San Francisco, Los Angeles, London, Barcelona, and each place did inspire. And writers used to be very nomadic, and so it was just natural to me. And it's also a matter of economy. It's like, okay, I'm living in New York. It was still very cheap, but then I decided, where's the cheapest city? That would be New Orleans. Okay, go there, make some money, save it up. Where can you go next? Go to an expensive city. Go to a cheap city. But I had literally done a pentagram across America until I exited. But also, this is a two-part thing, because also what I have to do, not only do places I move might inspire the art that I'm making, but I also have to decide where I can bring what I'm doing at the time. So, for instance, Scandinavia at one point was a big market for my spoken word, because winters are long and they read books and they speak English. So, a lot of it too is like, okay, Big Sexy Noise, one of my bands, popular in France and Italy. So not only would I move to a city and then create from whatever that inspired, but then after that, I would still have to be deciding what I could bring where, because most of my performances ever since 78 have been in Europe, because who the fuck cares in this country till now? 40 fucking years later, what the fuck happened? Yes, Joseph.
Well, let's watch.
Are you pointing at me again? I thought that was a vibrator. I thought it was like an electronic vibrator, and it's not. Jesus Christ, Joseph. Next time. Go ahead.
So we're going to watch a little clip of you singing with, I believe they're called Die Haut. Is that true?
Go ahead.
And then that goes into your collaboration with Roland S. Howard.
Let's do it.
I think they need singers. They just use us as the mascots, as the light relief. But, I like working with them because they're happy, cheery, funny chaps. And that's a pleasure compared to most infantile, spoiled brats who populate the music scene. So their personalities help, but the music, it's hard, it's driven, yet it's still catchy.
I'm saying if you're gonna give it to me, then give it to me straight. Quit dogging around. Quit fucking around. It's so easy to see. You
First of all, when I had released the original Teenage Jesus singles, it was Blixa Bargeld, before he was Blixa Bargeld, I guess, that brought the singles and put them in a popular cafe in Berlin. And the first time Teenage Jesus played in Berlin, if any of you know Einstürzen to Neubauten, Alex Hacker was 14 years old and in the audience, which I thought was really cute because he wasn't, Einstürzen to Neubauten did not exist yet. This clip dogging, some of them went on to now be in Einstürzen to Neubauten, which still exists. Roland S. Howard, I was living in Los Angeles doing 1313, and the Birthday Party's first album came out, first one or two albums, and I just thought it was the best thing I'd ever heard since Iggy Pop. So I then was in New York, and the Birthday Party were playing to 20 people. This is before Nick Cave dissolved into his, goth balladry, whatever the fuck. And boring, nothing. And I met Roland S. Howard and just immediately went up to him and said, oh my God. And he knew, mysteriously, but being from Australia, still knew Queen of Siam and Teenage Jesus and proposed to me right on the spot that we cover Some Velvet Morning, a Lee Hazelwood song. And I said, I'm moving to London immediately to work with you. Well, I moved there and then they went on tour, so I was left holding myself at bay for a little while. But then I worked with Roland S. Howard, and he was just, and still is, with Shotgun Wedding, an album that was from a live performance. Just one of the most incredible songwriters and human beings and ethereal spirits. And if you don't know Teenage Snuff Film, his best album, it is on YouTube. And Roland S. Howard is just, I mean, he was a ghost already. And the B-side of Some Velvet Morning was I Fell in Love with a Ghost, and that might have been Roland before he had even died.
He's an important collaborator. Jim Thirlwell / Clint Ruin / Fetus was an important collaborator, and we heard a bit of...
Wait, this is very interesting. I met Jim Thirlwell, J.G. Thirlwell, Clint Ruin, because he had written a press release for the Birthday Party, and I'm like, who is this guy? You have to meet him.
And this was the first clip that we heard...
Meltdown Oratorium
before,
from Stingfist, yeah.
Yeah, that started, they took away pleasure, blah, blah, blah. That was a collaboration with him. And also Exene Cervenka is another collaborator who was in the band X. And you went on tour and you devised this format of a dual spoken word format.
Which occasionally happens in comedy. There's two comedians on stage at once, but I don't really remember it ever being with two spoken word artists, but it was a tag team spoken word thing. And we had written this book, Adulterers Anonymous, which my literary hero, Barney Rossett, who went to 60 trials to defend writers like Hubert Selby, William Burroughs, the Marquis de Sade, D.H. Lawrence, and won eventually, Grove Press, published my first book, which is a poetry called Adulterers Anonymous with Exene Cervenka. And by the way, she had a problem with me when we first met because, well, her sister managed Teenage Jesus for a while, but I had broken up one of her good friends' romance. And eventually, though, he became my lover, the killer. He also was in a car accident with her sister, and she died anyway. That's just...
Well, there we go.
Complications.
And I'm going to play... Oh, there you are with Roland S. Howard.
True vampires.
And this is a clip
Oh my God, if you could only smell what Roland Howard smelled like.
We can't.
It was swampy. Delicious. Yes, darling.
So this clip starts out with Exene Cervenka talking, and then you are speaking. This is from 1995, but it's about the internet, and it's interesting to think about, perhaps prescient.
Our problems are all spiritual. They're not mechanical. They're not technological. If they were, they'd be solved by now. Anyway, I don't think we need more vehicles to no place. I think we're born with everything we need to know. I think the social register and the cash register are not a part of us, but I think nightfall is a part of us.
Now, when I'm at home alone, I can assure you the last thing I want is the ability to access 5 million other Slack hackers who have nothing better to do than to channel surf down the secondhand information highway, plugged into an internet, wearing an electronic dog collar, hoping, please, to just just crash land in some kind of virtual non-reality where technological gossip mongers can just continue to spread their bullshit halfway across the global network.
Where the fuck are we today? Hello? Come on.
Anything to add to that?
No.
All right. Speaking of fame, of success, of structures of power, of corruption, you've made the statement, if you're making art for money, then you're not doing art, you're doing commerce. And
let's be honest about it, Ann. Okay, yeah, well.
And you own all your work.
Because I'm a little bit smarter than the average fucking bear.
So how...
By the way,
is that key?
I do not recommend anybody go into art, music, or literature. I recommend you become scientists, chemists, architects, first of all. But if you do happen to decide you want a life of poverty, you know, that's fine. Own everything. I don't know how at the age of 17 I decided I am going to own every fucking thing I do, which I still do. Even though I sold the physical crap to NYU, I have all the intellectual property rights, all 385 songs that I've written. Who can even count that fucking high? I can't. I'm just saying, I don't know how I was wise. I'm a hustler, H-U-S-T-L-E-R, carry on, what?
So has that been...
Intellectual property rights now for sale, many zeros after, please, you can't afford it, go ahead.
Has that been key to your sustainability?
No.
No.
Yes. Look, how I differ every fucking way you can imagine. Back in the day, when there were small labels that would put shit out, I mean, I had my own record label, and I would license stuff, knowing that they would only sell a very limited amount of copies, and I wouldn't be getting that much money for them, but I could do this over and over again just to keep the physical copies in print for those idiots that might want a fucking vinyl occasionally. Well, now, I mean, you know, vinyl is back, right? I'm not pressing any, though. Carry on. Another Thowie? Oh, my God, please.
And so, and you also say that you don't want your audience to expand, that you've had the same kind of size of audience. And for decades.
Yeah,
and,
I know.
But
I don't mind preaching to the perverted.
Right. Which is also the title of a show by Holly Hughes, our very
Look, I mean, I know it's not that I don't want it to expand. I don't fucking care if it. I just like, there's a crab walk through I don't even consider it a career. I'm like a woman with a bullhorn on the top of a fucking mountain, and sometimes somebody puts me on the stage, pay me money, and I get to tell it like it fucking really is. Thank you all very fucking much. But, I mean, expand. I mean, I am amazed because as somebody who has been as radical, argumentative, schizophrenic, that I am still able to do this shit and never having had a day job that wasn't sex-related in my adult life. Might have to go back to that. Any takers? Very expensive, very expensive.
You said you were a hotel maid for a few months.
That's when I was 15, trying to get money to go to New York, please. I stole everything I could. I am basically a juggler, a hustler. I have to be extremely disciplined, and I have to really think far in advance in order. I've been homeless many times in my adult life. I'm not proud of that. I was a nomad for 4 years recently because it's just the way it had to be. And it's just the way it had to be. So, whatever. I mean, to expand what? I want one taker, a lot of money, and then I won't have to deal with the penis gallery anymore.
That's good.
Not against it. What's in your pocket, Joseph?
Just this clicker. It's actually in my hand. Now we are going to watch a couple other clips as a little palate cleanser. Or a palate contaminator, as the case may be.
A shot of fucking whiskey would go down really well right now. That'd really cleanse my palate. Carry on. The sooner we finish, the sooner we get out of here.
So what we're going to see now is a clip of you, I believe in the late 90s, on Italian television.
Oh, you found this. I don't know. You're silly. He found this. I had never even seen this before.
And then that goes into a more recent outfit called Big Sexy Noise of a song called Trust the Witch. And both of these have some kind of ritualistic, supernatural themes. And so
Who
let's
knows
just,
my powers better than you, Joseph?
let's sit with these and then
Sit on these. Can I sit on?
and then reflect on them.
I'd like to sit on your lap. What do you do with it?
Oh, that's not that. That's Exene
Oh,
Cervenka.
how cute.
We didn't even have a chance to finish.
Doesn't matter. Oh, hot. Christ. One that's fucking smoky never looks so damn good. Jesus. I almost wet
Are you
myself.
singing The Cancer of Birth?
I've got the cancer of birth, and I ask, what's the use? Now, of course, that was written when I was no older than any of these kids.
Sta parlando lei ha cantato del cancro della nascita e dice quando io l'ho scritto non ero più vecchia di questi ragazzini. Why do you refuse to be birthed? Do you refuse to come in this world?
No, I mean, this is a song I wrote almost 20 years ago, and basically it's about having to embrace the negativity that exists and create something positive from that. I mean, I'm very positive now, but it took me a long time to get here.
You are positive now.
Of course. The woman. Some say the devil is a woman. If there's a devil, no doubt she's a woman. Perhaps a monster, maybe my double. In the beginning, in the beginning. Before they had invented God.
Just a witch. Just a witch. Just a witch. You see, love is like a bitch with a burning desire. It'll drive you crazy just for a little skip. How much shit was set? The house on fire. That's so goddamn. I knew he couldn't resist. Love is like a snake. Swallow its lover. Suck your bones. Spit you away. Fill you up with venom. Give you nothing but trouble. Better trust the witch. And now she's back in the game. You better trust the witch. Trust the witch. Trust the witch. Trust the witch. Better trust the witch.
Joseph, do you trust the witch?
I want to.
Have I given you reason not to? Yet?
I don't think so.
Joseph, how many times have I actually pulled things out of your head that you were thinking? Lost count.
It's true. It's true.
Trust the witch.
So,
Yes, Tom.
anything to say about these?
Big sexy noise. First of all, I mean, we never played in this country because we just can't. I only recently got a fucking rock booking agent after about 30 years of not being able to do rock music in this country. Big sexy noise. James Johnson and Ian White were in a band called Gallon Drunk. They've also played with Barry Adamson, Nick Cave, various other people. And I still do performances with Ian White, the drummer. But Big Sexy Noise was and the thing is, that went on, mainly, I was living in Barcelona at the time, so we recorded a few albums. Do look on YouTube, they're out there somewhere. But I wanted to do something really raunchy, really, rock mama-ish. But the thing is, before this, we had been doing more psycho-ambient, spoken word with music, even some of the big band jazz noir adaptations. And Ian White and I were standing outside a poetry festival in Italy, and he goes, Mama Lunch. We're like, yes, Reverend. He goes, we need to start a rock band. I'm like, yes, all right. He goes, it needs to be big. I'm like, yes, it has to be sexy. And he goes, it has to be noisy. And then there it was. So, and to this day, I continue to work with Ian White and will continue to work with Ian White, the drummer, and drums and vocals. So, I mean, often it's also with, a lot of the people like Roland I had worked with over the years. So even though I might change concepts, I occasionally do go back to working with various collaborators if they suit the concept.
And although you've had so many different iterations, so many different musical identities. You also have now a band called Retrovirus, which is a kind of living retrospective. So it's a band with its own identity that also channels music from
Right,
throughout
and
your
what's
entire
interesting
career.
is Bob Bird, who was in Sonic Youth, Pussy Galore, Chrome Cranks, Wolf Manhattan Project, Bob Bird has seen more, the drummer of Retrovirus and the aforementioned, has seen more of my shows than any man alive. Pity the fool. So Bob Bird is playing drums, and Weasel Walter, who's kind of a Lydian of the highest order, who was into Teenage Jesus as a 14-year-old, and out to Rockland, Illinois. And then he brought in Tim Dahl, the bass player. But what's interesting about that, and why I've been actually engaging with this configuration for a while, is after writing, and I can't even believe because who did this while I was asleep? Oh, I don't sleep, I guess I did. After writing 385 fucking songs, Retrovirus can pretty much pull through whatever we want and then just update, or it's like the Lydian jukebox, but we don't take fucking requests. Don't do
You also even moved into a kind of, what would you characterize the work with Cypress Grove as?
All right, Cypress Grove, another thing that is not, come to this country, but it is online. I got a call, I got an email from a guy that was putting together a tribute record to Jeffrey Lee Pierce of the Gun Club, and asked me to do some pieces for that, and I said, fine. And then I'm like, wait a minute, we got to do some more stuff. And I was living in Barcelona, he was living in London, I had not met him, and I would send him on a musical wild goose chase, like, I'd go listen to Buckwheat Zydeco When the Levee Breaks, but write a song not like that. And he would come back, and he had written, and so just slowly over GarageBand, and I had not met him yet, working on these songs. And so then we had about 8 or 10 songs. And
GarageBand, you record sometimes directly into the Mac.
I have recorded many things directly into the GarageBand Mac, old school GarageBand, and it sounds fucking great. Psycho ambient, rock, whatever. Anyway, we had about 8 or 10 songs up with Cypress Grove, still not met. And I said, okay, well, we got to get this out because people really like it. It's kind of bluesy, swampy, rocky kind of stuff. And I said, yeah. And then he told me, and I really got creeped out. He goes, I said, these are great songs, because I had only rejected one. And he said he had never written a song before until he wrote them for me, and I play guitar on some of them. That's my baby guitar.
So let's just listen to a few moments of this, a softer side.
I have many soft sides, Joseph. Many soft sides. Story ends the way it begins. Desperate lovers at the bar fell in love with an image of you, but the bottle stole your heart.
Can we bring that down, Scott?
You like it when I sing, Joseph.
I like it when you sing.
I don't do it often.
I do. That's called Rising Moon.
I like it when you sing, too.
Yes, it's nice. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful song.
Cypress Grove, A Fistful of Desert Blues. It's out there, trust me. Maybe even on my Bandcamp, free listening for all my friends.
No. Well, we don't. We're going to go to that in a minute. So we're drawing to a close, Lydia.
Really, Joseph?
And so we want to approach some final thoughts.
I can't wait to hear yours.
Yes, darling?
A lot of the people in the audience are obviously people from around the Ann Arbor Film Festival, devotees of yours, and also a lot of art students who are studying at the Stamp School and thinking about how to make work, how to make money, if they can be the same thing, if
Darling,
they can't
you're asking
be the
the wrong
same.
fucking gal here. Really. Go ahead. What?
But perhaps you have some, but just
Take all
like
of your parents' money before they die. Do not feel any guilt. Don't think you're going to make it with our kids. No. Art, no. Science, chemistry, architecture.
any parting words of wisdom?
Everything out of my fucking mouth for the past 43 years have been words of wisdom. I don't suggest you go listen to all of them. War is never over plays when? You can even get
The
more
War
out
is,
of it
yeah,
then.
and The War is Never Over is the documentary that Beth B. made about you, came out
recently,
has garnered all sorts of acclaim, awards, etc.
That's
It's
what
playing.
award, Joseph. Don't be ridiculous. Not a fucking award. But there's all kinds of cool kids in there. You know, Danita Sparks, Thurston Moore, I don't know who else, whatever.
Yeah, that's playing tomorrow at the State Theater
nice.
at 11 p.m. So if you want
And what else are we
a
doing?
little
Christina
more
said-
late night lunch,
What are we doing else? We have other things.
you and I are doing tomorrow a film salon of both of our films
we're
called
showing-
Tales on
I
Tape.
might, okay, so tomorrow, if you don't have school to attend, I'm showing some really unusual, very different kinds of videos that I've done, because I don't really do rock videos, but something with Umar bin Hassan of The Last Poets. I'm doing a trailer for my upcoming documentary called Artist, Depression, Anxiety, and Rage, which I don't have depression or anxiety. I am paid to be rageful, but all my wonderful friends, those miserable cunts, are in it. Showing a little trailer for that. I don't know what else I'm showing, a bunch of stuff. So Joseph and I are having a little tribute to ourselves, just back and forth via actual strange. Oh, I'm showing one of my stalker videos. I've made a series of female psycho stalker videos to various. One tomorrow is to Vincent D'Onofrio, Law and Order. Yeah. I stalk him in the video. I also have made one for Louis C.K., Woody Harrelson, working on Matthew McConaughey, Norman Reedus. They're really twisted. Men are terrified, women love them. Joseph, I might make one on you.
Well,
maybe tonight.
I look forward.
To be even more terrified than usual.
And on that note, thank you so much.
Thank you very much for
Lydia
coming
Lunch.
out. Thank you, Christina. Thank you, Joseph. Thank you, Ben Easttown.